Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is easily the greatest and most diverse game in the series yet. That said, there are a few things that you should and shouldn't be doing when trying to save Aionios. So here's 5 tips for each that should help you do exactly that. Starting things off, the first thing you should make sure you're doing is to use and play as healers. Now that may seem rather obvious as they are your only source of healing revives in this game, but after the awful healer role demonstration with Uni, you might consider never touching a healer role again. Trust me though, that is a very bad idea. Tyon's class Tactician is a great example of how great healers can be, with regular heals from auto-attack charged arts, powerful offensive arts with impactful effects, and a great talent art for providing damage and even more healing. Something else you're going to want to make sure stays equipped though are your field skills. This is the main way that you will obtain your talent arts for these classes, as simply applying field arts with allies nearby significantly fills your talent gauge. You'll then likely find that most of the toughest combat scenarios become no more than a cinch for you, as a stable, good source of healing should see you through the early game and help you immensely when fighting some of the later bosses. On the other side of things, you should make sure that you aren't wasting your fusion arts. This is something I expect a lot of people to do in the beginning, as Xenoblade 3 does set you up to do so. You unlock your fusion art slots top to bottom as you increase your level, meaning that the art positioned in this top slot will be used as default. This tends to coincide in most cases, however, with arts that inflict topple and daze. Frankly, these are not arts you want to be wasting with fusions, as in most cases, it's best to hold on to these arts until you can actually make use of their effects. With this in mind, I recommend moving these types of arts or any others you may want to save into different slots, as the AI then won't waste them and you will not feel obligated to spam them every time they're available. Later on in the game though, once you have begun to unlock a few more master arts, you should start to consider what effects you want to pair together. A few of my favourites has been giving arts that increase aggro, the AoE effect, so they can hit multiple targets at the same time, stacking knockback and blowdown to send enemies flying away and off cliffs, along with tying them to auras, making their effects virtually permanent. Experiment and see what works for you. The Ouroboros forms also have a few do's and don'ts. I'll be making a more in-depth guide shortly, going over everything you need to know about these forms, but I still think it's important to mention now that you should always wait before interlinking. This is due to the effect of your interlink level and how your power increases when it's at a higher level. At level 0, you get no bonus at all, and simply get the Ouroboros in its core state, but as soon as you reach level 1, that all changes. Depending on your class role when you interlink, a certain effect is applied. Attackers deal a set amount of damage to all enemies, defenders gain aggro, and healers heal all allies, and these effects scale as your interlink level increases. Selecting a variety of different roles is therefore extremely important, giving you access to the effect you desire at any point in time. Your interlink level also affects how quickly your talent arts charge, with it being virtually impossible in the beginning to obtain your talent arts at level 0. If it's not clear already, don't interlink at level 0! Something else you should avoid doing in your Ouroboros forms is letting them overheat. I get that this is obvious again, but before you unlock the soul tree and are able to reduce the heat buildup, you'll find yourself very close to overheating regularly. When you do push it too far, you will be unable to interlink for the duration of the cooldown, which in the fast-paced combat of Xenoblade 3 feels like an eternity. You'll also be in significant danger, as you'll be unable to interlink to save yourself from a fatal attack, or even use any of your support or healing arts that you may need to at the time. The good news is that you can cancel the Ouroboros form at any time, even whilst in the middle of an art, cancelling it instantly and starting the cooldown. The only exception to this rule is when using talent arts, as these do lock you into the animation and the form won't end until it's complete, even if it does overheat. Chances are though, sometimes these forms will get a little too hot, and you may be a little too late on cancelling them in time. time. In these circumstances, I recommend using your chain attacks. By completely using a chain attack, you can completely refresh your Ouroboros cooldown, granting you instant access to the forms once again, which can be very useful depending on the state of the party. That said, it's probably still best to just avoid it overheating in the first place, so that you can manage the situation as it comes at you. Now, after I've just explained why you should cancel your Ouroboros forms early, I'm now going to explain why you shouldn't cancel chain attacks. When I first saw chain attacks and noticed that they were cancelable and didn't use all of the chain attack gauge in one go, I was excited at the possibility that we would be able to strategically end them early, in the circumstance that a party member became incapacitated, something else went wrong, or we simply made a mistake. By cancelling, we would be able to stop the attack and begin refilling the meter, keeping what was left from before. But no. That sadly is not the case. Nope. Cancelling a chain attack completely wastes everything, and you have to start from empty again, just like if you'd completed the darn thing. As far as I can tell, there is absolutely no reason to ever cancel a chain attack, so for the love of all that is holy, don't press that button. If that wasn't clear enough for you though, and you've struggled to follow all of the other tips in this video, then I absolutely recommend that you check out the tips and training drill segments of the menu. It's not an unpopular opinion to say that Xenoblade tutorials are not one of the series' strong points. Granted, I do think Xenoblade 3 is a massive improvement over its predecessors, but there are still things that aren't clear or mentioned at all. That's why it's likely a good idea that you take a peek at this menu every now and then, to get yourself caught up with how everything works. The tips menu features a complete list of every buff and debuff in the game, along with their effects, so you can know exactly what each effect actually is, and the training drills are a great way of reminding yourself on how certain mechanics work. In fact, you will probably find that a lot of the things that I'm mentioning in this video are present within these menus. Now you know exactly where I get all my video ideas from. God, the future is bleak if the Xenoblade 3 menus is all the material I have to work with. That said, they're definitely worth a read, and you might even find something out that you didn't know before. Next on the list though, I just want to reiterate a point that I made in my pre-release video, being that you're going to want to increase your dexterity stat as much as possible in the early game. Accuracy in Xenoblade 3 is a major issue, as being underleveled, even just a little bit, has a huge impact on your performance in combat, and many crucial attacks will begin to miss. Senna and Lanz were the biggest offenders for me, and they became virtually unplayable, as missing all of their hits meant that they could not fulfill their respective roles. Therefore, I say once again, make sure to equip accessories and gems in the early game that increase your dexterity stat. Noah also has a skill which increases his dexterity by a little bit, so it might just be best to stick with his class in the beginning, until you obtain more items to boost this stat or become a high enough level that your accuracy no longer becomes a problem. Other hero classes also tend to have higher accuracy stats, so playing as them is another way to get around the problem. You therefore shouldn't stick with only one class, and should be actively swapping them round as you level up and gain new classes via heroes. Each class has different stats and plays uniquely, so becoming familiar with them all as soon as possible is anything but a bad thing. Unlocking more classes for each character also in tandem gives you access to more master arts and skills, providing you with many more options within combat. There's really no good reason to just stick with one, so as soon as they reach level 10, make sure to switch and get the most out of each one. Every character levels up at different rates with each class though, and this is shown through the ranking that can be seen at the top of the menu. This scales from S to D, with S rank leveling up the quickest. The speed of which each one ranks up is honestly negligible, but I thought it was still worth mentioning. The last thing you should definitely make sure you're definitely doing is exploring the vast world of Aionios. Each time you discover a new location, landmark, or unexplored area, you will receive an EXP bonus which is deposited into the EXP bank, along with other rewards such as additional SP. The rewards also scale with the general level of the area, so going somewhere with higher level monsters isn't actually a bad idea. You can then visit a rest spot or cafeteria to use that stored EXP all at once to gain levels quickly. This is therefore a great way to deal with some of the more challenging content within the game. Be warned, however, that there is no level down function, at least as far as I have made it so far, so it is very possible via this method that you could over-level yourself. There are other reasons to explore and backtrack as well, as many heroes are obtained through side content instead of the main story, and wandering around may lead you to run into them and obtain them earlier than you normally might. And the last thing you shouldn't do is an absolute no-no. There is a special place in hell for people who do what I'm about to mention. Don't spoil the game for others, for fuck's sake.